Hello everybody, Dave Neal here, stand-up comic host of Bachelor at Recap a Guy's Review. Some Bachelor Nation news to get into right now. Former Bachelor Ben Higgins returns to Indiana after experiencing a breakdown. It's really hard. We'll talk about what is very common to all of us, and that is existential crisis. Wondering what to do with the rest of our lives. Who are we? What's our purpose? All those things we ask ourselves. If you're not asking yourself those questions, are you even really living? Is the question out there. Do me a favor and leave a like on this video and hit subscribe if you haven't already. That'll help me with my existential crisis. Like, what am I doing with my YouTube channel? Well, trying to grow it. That's the case. So let's get right into Ben Higgins, who's on a podcast talking about this. I have to say, if you want to catch up, Ben Higgins, 5 months ago, I made this video, The Bachelor, Ben Higgins' new book, 12 excerpts, Overcoming a Public Breakup as The Bachelor, where he talked about an addiction he had to pain meds and, a lot of other things in his life. And Ben has been really good at laying it out there. There's a few contestants like Blake Horstman and Ben and a few others that have really done a good job. We're talking about the male contestants here because there is stigma with men talking about their mental health. Be brave, suck it up, don't cry, you know what I mean? Those types of things. You know, you hear that your whole life, and then it's kind of like, well, but what if I don't feel good? Well, just try harder, toxic optimism, those types of things. They do exist, and you need to acknowledge how you feel on the inside while trying to make active changes to lead a more healthy life. Now, what's going on as we come out of a 18-month, 2-year pandemic, if not longer? Looking at you, Delta variant, it's contagious, get your vaccines. What's going on now is people are saying, all right, I had all this time alone with my thoughts and I didn't like what I saw. What's next for me? And when you throw in the lives of Bachelor contestants, what you essentially have is they're thrust into this popularity, thrust in several different ways. Looking at you, Fantasy Suite, and then all of a sudden, it's a revolving door. Like the next person comes along. There's a reason why you see a lot of former Bachelor contestants having podcasts and doing other things, trying to stay relevant in the community, because it's like going to a very short-lived high school where there is no real exit strategy from it. You could go back to your normal life, but that's kind of hard to do once you've had your name put out there and you're kind of got this sort of influence. Or we have former contestants that try to go back to being flight attendants and they just couldn't do it. It's almost like you're famous enough to be recognized, but not famous enough to live off of that money. And in some cases they do. Now, let's go into this article here and see what Ben had to say, and then we'll discuss a little bit more. Former Bachelor Ben Higgins returns to Indiana after experiencing a breakdown. It's really hard. Not all rosy. Ben Higgins has experienced plenty of ups and downs since his time on the Bachelor franchise, and now he's taking time to regroup and refocus. Former Bachelor 32 sat down with Trista Sutter on the Tuesday, July 6th episode of her Better, Etc. podcast to discuss how being in the public eye has impacted his mental health. 5 years after his journey to find the one aired, Higgins is back in his native Indiana to do some soul searching. I'm back in Indiana right now because of a breakdown again in my life where I don't know what's happening. I don't know what this next season of life looks like for me. I'm farther and farther removed from the show, and at the same time, I need to figure out what my life is going to look like and what my legacy is going to be. It's kind of like this. As humans, we want control over situations because it's in our genetics that control equals power. And, we come from centuries of people that just try to make it through the winter and just try to have control by farming out the land and not being subjected to the crazy weather. And, it sounds crazy to relate it that way, but it's like we all just want a little bit of control, a safety net. And we live in the richest country in the world, right? So why is it that so many of us don't have a safety net? So many of us, you know what they say, the majority of Americans can't afford a $400 medical emergency. Doesn't that blow your mind? Doesn't that blow your mind? So the idea that you want to know what's next and you want all these things, when the pandemic stops the hamster wheel from running, when the pandemic stops the hamster wheel from moving and you get off it, all of a sudden after a few days of silence, you go, all right, what's next? And I know a lot of us are asking those questions. What's next? So let's see what's next for Ben Higgins. Well, I guess a mustache is what's next. It actually looks kind of good on him. I don't mind a mustache. You guys know I've pulled a mustache off once in a while. Maybe for 50,000 subscribers, I'll grow a mustache. Hit subscribe, we'll see. Maybe for 50,000 subscribers, I'll shave it off. Maybe for 40,000, I'll grow it, and then you'll just have to hit the subscribe button until I get rid of it. The beginning of his next chapter is really exciting, but also comes with a little fearfulness for the future. It's also really hard, he told the original Bachelor at 48. I'm at a low place. I don't see myself as this thriving figure right now. I'm kind of lamenting and separating myself from a lot of things that I held close. Bachelor Nation fans met Higgins in 2015 during Caitlin Bristow's season. He ended the season as second runner-up and was later named the lead for season 20 of Bachelor. Higgins proposed to Lauren Bushnell during the March 2016 finale, but the pair ended their engagement in May 2017. Though his journey ultimately ended in heartbreak, being on reality TV presented Higgins with a variety of opportunities. All of a sudden, I go from feeling like I'm an outsider to, over a period of time, having enough people tell me that I'm awesome to start feeling pretty good about myself. I start building an identity around that. I started to really feel like, oh my gosh, this is the thing that I was needing to fill me. I'll be in this in-group forever. To compare is despair, right? That's the term. And that's what's wrong with social media, is it shows us everyone else's highlight reels and not the everyday life. So you just see all of their highlights and you go, I'm not doing enough in my life. Compare is despair. Keep your eyes in your own lane is kind of the idea, but it's very hard. I have that problem with Instagram. If I scroll through Instagram too much and see other comedians doing stand-up shows, I go, why aren't I on that stand-up show? It's almost like seeing nothing but photos of all of your friends hanging out and you're not invited. You're like, what? Why am I not invited to the party? So here you have Ben Higgins, and I've never even considered this, but he was on Caitlin Bristow's season. Caitlin Bristow co-hosting this season of The Bachelorette. Caitlin Bristow's career knocking it out of the park. Ben Higgins goes, why don't I have wine business? Why don't I have co-hosting? Why am I not doing all this? And while it might seem like woe is me, we have to remember that this is good that he's like asking these questions out loud, because we all do this. And maybe you don't. Maybe you're like well adjusted, but I feel like a lot of people do this, and it's important to remember that like we're grappling with the mental health aspects and fallout from the first generation in the history of humans to sort of have a social media which enlarges our social sphere to a point where we can't even reckon with this. Suicide rate is up amongst teens. People are online bullying's crazy. And everyone always says, oh, these leads, they get everything, they get everything they imagine. They get the wealth, they get all this. But that dopamine isn't sustainable. That feeling of ecstasy from like getting some instant love isn't sustainable. So if you put your sort of character, who you are, into something that's bigger than you, you're going to be, cut out from underneath you. And that's where it's going to, part of his soul searching is going to have to be like, what's next? What's next? And that's when enlightenment happens. Enlightenment happens when you hit like a new level, and then you kind of succeed at that level, and it's a video game. And then you go, okay, I succeeded at this level. Well, what's next? Now, the problem becomes when you're not happy with the successes you already have. So it's like, take time to smell the roses. Take time to enjoy the successes you already have, while in a healthy level, move forward. And he's just at that growth phase. We all get there, hopefully. If you've never been to a growth phase, you're just not trying hard enough. If you've never been at the phase of like existential crisis, and I don't mean trying hard enough like working hard, I'm talking about like really analyzing what it is you want to provide to the world. And some people are just fine working the drive-out window at Dunkin' Donuts. I would love that to be my job once I retire. Work the drive-through window. Hey, neighbor, how are you? Extra, have a good one. I throw in an extra donut for you. Get out of here. I would love to be that guy. But there's also like, am I doing enough? And maybe it's part of our society that's like super capitalistic. That's like, oh, you got to rush. But what we're learning is the 5-day work week, the 40-hour work week, it's bullshit. It's baloney. Most of that you can do in 10 hours. Now, don't get me wrong. I work probably 80 hours, but at least I'm not renting out my time. At least I'm working for me. So the equity I'm building into my business is mine, and it can't be taken away from me. Whereas someone like Ben, he was being groomed to be the next host of The Bachelor. So all of his control was put outside to somebody else, and it's like he has nothing to show for it. Though his journey ultimately ended in heartbreak. I think I already read that part. Did I read that part? All of a sudden, I go from feeling like an outsider. Okay, his infatuation for fame started to fade, and the more he tried to reach to stay relevant, the more he felt like he'd lost himself. I was living not just for other people, but just for other people's attention. Right before the coronavirus pandemic in early 2020, Higgins started to divorce himself from trying to fight for other people's approval. Okay, that's like a codependency thing. He's trying to like do what's right for him. I like it. Very nice. Nice He's got a nice little, what's that called? A fly tie? What's that called? A bolo tie? Wow. It was selfishly one of the most unhealthy and best times for me. I saw everybody else around me slow down. What I recognized then is that I was measuring myself on everybody else still more than I knew. Okay, so just like what we said, compare is despair. Sutter, for her part, found that she could relate to Higgins' experience more than she expected. Pretty much everyone these days, especially because of social media, we do the comparisons like all freaking day long. It's really, really hard to handle these days. Put your phone down. Put it down. The second you feel yourself doing that, okay, time's up. I've been on Instagram stories enough. Sutter, for her part, explained, okay, I said that. The Dancing with the Stars alum then proposed that she, Sutter said it's really hard to handle these days. Yeah, of course it is. It's hard to handle social media because it's created by people that created slot machines. It's created to keep you addicted, to show you the dopamine, oh, I got a new message type of stuff. Device-free time. Tasha and I talk about this all the time. We created DFT, device-free time. Take it, and it's got to go. You got to, it's over there. I just throw it on the dog. It's got to go. Your phone's gone. It's got to go. Maybe even turn off the router. We don't do that for you. Turn off the router. Go out there and experience. Now that we just got this new place, we have a nice outdoor couch. I can't tell you like how many times I've taken an afternoon nap on my outdoor couch. It's like amazing. I could have spent that same amount of time just looking at the thing being like, why am I not doing? Why am I not doing? Why am I not doing? You've done enough. The Dancing with the Stars alum proposed that she and Higgins team up to start a Bachelor's Anonymous group to help other past stars cope with the transition in their life post-show. That'd be a great podcast, to be honest. This isn't the first time Higgins, who's currently engaged to Jessica Clark, has opened up about his lowest moments. In his memoir, Alone in Plain Sight, he went into detail about being addicted to painkillers in high school. It's not a beautiful season of life, he told Us Weekly exclusively in February, admitting it's still tough to talk about his struggle. Not a lot of people know it in my own life, like a lot of people don't know that side of me, because it's not something you go around. Nope, I just lost it. Hold on. This is what I'm talking about. People go, why don't you get ad pop-up blockers? And I go, I do. They overrun my computer. Please leave a comment. Let me know what kind of ad pop-up blocker I can get. Anyway, he added that I hope that someone out there can read it and go, hey, I'm in it too, and there's a way out. But also, while I'm still in it, like I don't have to be ashamed. All right, so he's destigmatizing his feelings, which is great. This is good. Look, I mean, what it goes to show is like he's got the woman of his dreams. He's in a happy place, but he still feels this void, and that's fine. That's fine, because what you have to realize is you got to figure out what it is you want to create. What is yours? Some people like Peter Krause start a gym. I'll talk about it in the next video about PPP loans. He says he lost $150,000. It's too bad if you started a gym right before a global pandemic. That's at the very least bad luck. But with Ben Higgins, you wrote a book, you knocked that off. You're talking to other people about it. What else can you do to be a mentor to others, to talk about your mental health? If this is an itch you have to scratch, talk about it with others, because you're going to create a support group of people that feel the same way. The Bachelor, fandom, the people that come from The Bachelor, the leads, the contestants, the Bachelor in Paradise and the Winter Games and all this, they're really just an exaggeration of humans, of how we all feel. They just do it at a level that's more known and more famous, but we get to see that and go, oh, they struggle with the same things we struggle with. They struggle in a world where they don't want a standard job and they want to travel. And how can we mix it all together? How can we mix together this rat race of life also with the, nonstop ticking clock we see because of social media to get more shit done with not enough time? How do we kind of make it all work? And that's the battle we all have to sort of deal with, is how do we all coexist? Let me know if you have any advice for Ben Higgins. You know what I mean? Let me know. I think it's just good. I think, honestly, sunlight is the greatest disinfectant. In so many cases, taking the time to just talk about your problems will just set a lot of them free. They always say fear is false evidence appearing real. A lot of times we fear this wild scenario in our life, and the truth is, just by acknowledging those inner kind of feelings, that ego that thinks you're the center of the show. And now, don't get me wrong, it's nice to feel like you are the lead character in your own story, but it's also nice to be like, look, no one cares, Ben Higgins. It's nice to live that side of anonymity. No one cares how you're doing, so use that energy to just live freely. Enjoy it. Enjoy yourself, Ben Higgins. Thank you for sharing your story. Everyone else, I got more content coming all day long. Live stream tomorrow, 4 p.m., and stick around for that. Bye.